again, taking your hands toward you, straightening them out a little bit, which is it a little bit clearer which shoulder you'd go toward. Depending on which arm's on top. And then you could take the elbows through each other again. And is it a little bit easier when you're lying on the floor? That part of you maybe that you were efforting in before, that you knew that was the part that you... Is it a little bit easier maybe to give that work up when you've got the floor to support it? And how much do you let your weight shift as you do this? Does the weight roll across your torso as you do this? You're just finding a really easy way to cross your arms and to feel more and more which shoulder would your hands go to, depending on which hand's on top. Struggle well, Bruce, struggle well. Spread your attention. What were the 3 things you were going to tell someone in? Just think of those. Are any of those going to help you? That doesn't help. Holding your breath doesn't help. Go back where it's easy. Go back where it's easy. Yeah? So go there. That's effort. That's effort. Go back to where it's easy and just really go slowly at the point where it's easy before you start to struggle. Because you've got to find something in your image that can soften, that can move. It's to do with weight shift, not getting stuck on the ground. It's to do with your neck being able to be free, jaw soft. So you're really finding out here, this is about you finding out, what do I do when something's difficult? What's my pattern? Okay, have you tried both sides? If you haven't, just take a minute to explore your arms the other way. And again, just to see if there's something different about when you're lying, maybe being able to give up a little bit more work in your chest, in your breathing, in your thinking. Roll right over. Yeah. Feel absolutely free to roll as much as you like, Nicole. You see, that frees your neck and head a little bit. Can you feel? Yeah? Yeah? Okay, come back to the middle. Could you interlace your fingers? So this is normal interlacing of fingers now. And again, do that a couple of times. So this is just normal interlacing. Normal interlacing. Normal interlacing. That's not normal interlacing. Yeah. And again, do that a few times and see, because one thumb's on top of the other, go gently and feel, how does that bias my shoulder blades? How does that bias maybe my first rib? Just do it a few times and really feel what happens to habitually interlace my fingers. Does one shoulder go a little bit higher than the other? Because a habitual interlacing is something you do with all of you. It's not just your hands. So the more you can begin to feel more through what's the whole organisation that this habitual interlacing does. Does it tend to orient my head a little bit more in one direction than another? Maybe it takes my pelvis a little bit somewhere. So how can you make this habitual interlacing even easier? And then once you've got them interlaced up above, up to the ceiling, do the non-habitual and feel what happens proximally that would make that really easy to do. What happens proximally? Just in your fingers, but what happens proximally? So this freedom we can have. Okay, so now, keeping your fingers interlaced any way you want, could you find a way to thread your right foot through your hands? So the gap, your foot, not your knee. Your foot, your foot, your foot, not your knee. Your foot, not your knee. So can you find a way that you can bring your right foot through the gaps so you can thread your whole leg through, but it's your foot first and then your knee. And as you go out as well, it's your knee first and then your foot. So we're looking for a very particular organisation of your leg. How do you find a way to make this easy? Again, this is all about the shapes you can make, where your weight might want to roll. How do you mobilise your pelvis to get your leg up? Can your pelvis stay on the ground if you want to get your foot through this gap? Do anything you like to get it through. But you're always, it's your foot first, then your knee, and then your knee out, and then your foot. Your foot first, and then your knee. And again, really feel, can your pelvis stay on the ground to make this easy? Or does it have to do something? Does it have to lift somehow? What do your shoulders have to do? What do your collarbones need to do? What does your sternum do? Does your chin go away from your chest to help you get there? Does your chin come closer to your chest? Do you lift your head? Okay, then could you do the same thing with your left leg? Simon's already there. And to really feel what's different. Is it different this side? What shape do I try and make this side? So how do I again really look that each repetition is about making it easier? Each repetition is about making it easier. Could you then thread one leg through and then the other one as well? And then take one out at a time again. And again, as much as you can, it's always the knee out first, then the foot in first, and then the knee. So what is it about having to take your knee out to the side that's going to help some of you to find a little bit more width in some of your ribs? How much can you change? How much can you not struggle? How much can you not be oriented to the goal? And then if you've got both legs in, can you lead with one or the other? Is it different if you thread your right leg through and then put your left leg through, compared to if you take your left leg through first and then thread your right leg through? So really feel, we've actually been doing a lot of these movements in ATM's last segment. But this ability to take the knees together, to take the knees apart, to have one knee up, to have one knee down. All of these different combinations where we can have light legs. And what that's got to do with what we can do through the middle of ourselves. So it's a little bit like we were just doing with your elbows. How do I find my elbows can be apart or together? One could be up, one could be down. So feel the freedom in your arms. Do you always keep your elbows at the same height, or is there something about maybe one elbow going up or one elbow going down? How many different ways can you find that your arms and legs can find lightness and ease, and that it's dependent on this softness in your torso? Have a rest. So how is it that we can stay within what's possible for us? Because the more we understand this on ourselves, the more that's what we can communicate to our clients. Because the struggle's the habit. And, you know, that's always the distinction Feldenkraft's making, that we have to struggle often in life, but it's not helpful in learning. It's not helpful when we're trying to become more deeply aware of how we get in our way. Okay, so again, if you haven't interlaced your hands the other way, could you do it? And then you can bend your knees and just roll yourself more towards your right, so that you know your weight is more over on the right ribs, the right side of the pelvis. So you're not right over on your right side, but you just know you're sort of still on your back, but you know you've rolled your weight over toward the right. But the left side's free of the weight. Left leg, your left foot might still have a little bit of weight, but you've sort of freed your pelvis and the left side of your torso from having weight on them. And feel now, if you were going to thread your legs through from here, which leg would it be lighter to lift? When your weight's over on your right side. And really take your time here. So we're trying to make fine distinction. Which leg is it lighter to lift? Is it the one that's got weight on it, that's weighted to the ground, or is it the one that's got less weight on it? Is it the side that's got less weight on it that would be easier to thread through? So you can really feel, to really get the sense of this, you can't really be pushing a lot with your legs. Your legs have to be pretty light here. That's not where you're taking your weight so much, because we've been doing all those movements to lighten your legs. So which leg would be lighter to reach through? And then pause and roll a little bit more to your left. And feel which leg would be easier, which one would be lighter to lift right from the beginning, right from the beginning. So it's too late once you've lifted it to feel it. Huh? And if you feel you're pushing a lot with one foot to help you here, just let it roll out. Just let it roll. Let it roll off the foot, the weight. So we're really trying to feel, how does this weight on your torso influence which leg is going to be lighter? And maybe, perhaps you might be beginning to find that if the weight's more on the left side of your torso, that maybe it's your right leg that's easier to thread through. And if your weight's more over on the left side of your torso, maybe you... So the side that the weight is not on, that leg, because it's not weight bearing, it's not involved in supporting you can be a little bit lighter, a little bit more available to thread its way through your hands. Okay, leave that and come back to sitting. With your legs crossed, arms forward somewhere. Just see, has anything changed in your sitting after doing that? Do you feel more forward over your pelvis, some of you, after doing that? Something feel different in your belly after doing all those movements of getting your legs to move in those different ways? And again, you decide which one. Take one arm out in front, cross the other one over, and just take your elbows through the gap again and just see, is anything any different? Where does your weight shift? Is there a difference in where you weight after doing those to lighten the legs? Or maybe for some of you, your legs feel a little bit more involved in the movement, that they're not so static on the ground, but that they respond a little bit more. And as that allows some of you to bring your heads more forward in space, to thread your arms. Or maybe to turn a little bit more or side bend a little bit more. Something getting that lightness in your legs. Getting any clearer about where your hands go to each shoulder? Maybe you can get your hands around your shoulder. All these planes of side bending and turning and rounding and lengthening. All these hours of the pelvic clock, really. All these hours of your head clocks. Okay, lie on your backs again. Bend your knees to your chest. And just have one hand below each kneecap. And get a sense of how that feels at the moment. How soft are your arms? Do you have to hold your knees with as much force as maybe you normally do? Or is something changing in your torso that's allowing your knees to come to your chest just so a little bit more easily, so you don't have to grip them as much. You don't have to hold them on top of the knees, Bruce, on top of the knees, top of the knees. So very gently now, feeling this ease in your elbows and your knees and your hands and your forearms, feet, could you begin to simply take your two knees away from each other and back together again? Just feel what happens through all of you to do that. Does anything change in your neck or where your chin might go? Something in your spine, maybe responding to the knees just gently going apart and together. And then maybe one knee could go up as the other one goes down. And again, feel what has to change in your torso to allow you to do this, to bring one knee closer to your chest and the other one further away. So that little sort of diagonal, do you feel that in your torso? Do you feel what your head might get asked to do if you're making that shape? And then try that movement with your knees closer together or with your knees wide apart. Exploring lots of different combinations. And how this placement of your arms, of your legs, always has something to do with what you allow to happen through your torso, and your ribs, and your sternum. So just those cardinal directions of in, out, up, down, and now you're just exploring variations of those two. And really feeling your shoulder blades responding, your collarbones, something in your first rib, something in your belly, something able to change shape, to soften. Okay, so we're going to do this all in one direction. So start with your knees wide. Holding around the knee, so not over the top, if you can around, so your fingers are pointing in. And just feeling that freedom. So again, just do some little movements there of the knees in and out, up and down, being able to move separately to each other. Really find that freedom in your hips. You can make little circles if you want. But your hips are really free. Your hips are free. One knee up, one knee down, one in, one out. They can do circles in opposite directions. Feel how your arms are long and soft, so that you can really feel your weight shifts through your upper back as well. How does your upper back respond to this movement of your pelvis and your legs? So at the moment, really feel your pelvis is really moving on the ground to do this. It's really changing its shape. It's shortening and lengthening. It's going more toward the tail or the thing, but your pelvis is really free here. And to let that happen, your belly's soft, your arms are soft. Base of your neck, that first rib's free. It's moving. Doesn't have to do much movement, but it's moving. And then going to the right, keeping all of this constant movement. Can you roll up to side sit? Going to the right, up to side sit. And really notice, is there any part of you that felt like it stopped moving? And then go down again. And then up to the right again, just to the right. I'd rather you didn't. So let your head come forward. Let your head come forward. Let it get pulled forward. There you go. And really feel as you go down too. Do you have to keep the knee in place as you go down? So as you're going down, does your right knee have to stay where it is, or could it be moving already as you go down so that every part of you is always, every part of you is moving. Hands around your knees, hands around your knees. So where does your head have to go? Is your head getting pulled along by your pelvis? And again, notice whenever you get stuck, what's happened to your pelvis? Has it stopped being able to mobilize itself? And what are you doing that's stopping it? Is it your hands have stiffened? Your shoulders, your breathing? What stopped moving? And what are your knees doing? Can you feel one? When's one going up? When's one going down? When do they maybe go apart? When do they come together? Okay, pause. And then think about how you would come up to the left. And again, it's a sensation we're looking for. So how do you find this feeling of my arms are attached to my legs and everything can move? Everything is moving. As I take my knees in and out and left and right. So my knees never stop moving through space, never stop changing their relationship to each other. And just really notice, is there a point where one leg you stop it moving? Which is how we've often come up to sitting to the side in the past, that we've kept one leg more still on the ground. Is there a way that it could just keep moving? That it could just keep moving? Okay, so this is now where you need to pay attention to each other, so we're going to go left and right. So you might want to reorganise yourselves a little bit. So just to give yourself space at the moment to find your timing to do the movement before we start to do it all together. So you're looking for it to be lighter, easier, feeling how your pelvis can just power you through here. And I don't mean power by effort, but just that it's free to just keep spiraling you. Just to keep spiraling you. And what's that got to do with your legs being able to stay soft, your arms being able to stay soft? Finding your way to do this. Okay, what about if you wanted to make a circle? Be aware of the people around you. Feldenkrais keeps saying there is a difference between watermelons and heads. So how would you begin to make a full circle around you? And there's lots of ways you can do this, to do the transition over. So just do it and see, what do you come up with? Really be aware of the people around you. So one way, if we watch Karen, it's beautiful, Karen. Yeah, it's just beautiful. And you can see Karen, when she comes up, that she flips this leg in so her feet come together. And then she goes down again. And then she flips that foot in, takes the knee out, and she goes down again. Another way that some of you are doing it is to come more into side sitting. And then you sort of roll over your feet. Can you do what Karen does? What do you have to organise? That you're coming up and then you can, that leg's free enough that it can, that your soles of your feet virtually come together. And then, of course, the other way is that your knee would come near the sole of your foot. You'd come up in side sitting, so could you do that? Yeah. And then what would you organise, Karen, to do it that way, to keep moving around? Yeah, that's it. Go down. That's it, Karen. Well done. There it is. So there's it. So the foot goes away, and then you sort of. So, which makes the biggest circle in space? How does your head move differently compared to one than the other? Does it move in space differently? There's one that Martina started doing right at the beginning, and then she didn't. Where you come forward. Keep going, Simon. You come forward, and then you can come up onto your, no, don't swing. And you can come up onto your, onto your knees. Go, stay down. Bring that there. Yeah? And go over that way. Yeah? It's another way you can do it. Yeah, where the knees and the feet come together as you come up. Yeah, so all these different combinations of what your knees can do, what your feet can do. Yeah. Yeah. So it's just a really... And you can really see they're just different organisations of, do I keep my knees and my feet together as I'm coming up? Do my knees go apart more easily and my feet come together? Do I tend to more my feet and my knees stay a more even distance apart? So there's not one right way. It's different organisations of your legs with your torso. Okay, let's do one more thing. So now lying on your back, and we'll see if this works. Bit of an experiment. So you're going to roll to one side. If I say right, is everyone okay to go to the right? To come up to side sitting. No? So don't do it yet. And what you're going to do as you come up is really stay in your internal experience. So you're not concerned where you'll be when you come up. This is very much about you just being in your experience, and you're rolling to the right, and you're going to end up somewhere to the right. So just do that first. So you're holding your knees, and you stay very much in your internal experience, and you just come up to your right. And just get a sense of how you feel there, and then go down again. And then this time we're going to add in, so it's still there, but this time you know where you're going to end up being oriented to. You know where you're going to end up looking. So you've got so now you're going to be more externally oriented to the world around you. So now roll to your right and come up because you're going somewhere. How does that influence how you come up? So just play between the two of those. One where you're not as much externally oriented, where it's much more about your internal experience. And you're just paying really deep attention to your internal world. And then to feel the difference if you've still got that internal world, but you know you want to go somewhere. Okay, so next time you're up inside sitting, stay there. And could you do the same thing to come up to standing? So the first time, you're just deep in your internal experience, and you're just feeling, how am I going to bring myself up to standing? But I'm not interested in where I'm going to end up. So how would you come up? But could you still sort of spiral your pelvis a little bit if it's possible? No, you're inside sitting already. No? So you're inside sitting, and you're just going to come up to standing and feel, what's the difference if I come up staying very much in my internal experience? And then just go down to side sitting again and feel, what's the difference if I come up and I want to go somewhere? that I know I'm going in a particular orientation. So what's the difference? Anyone happy to?
It's more sensual.
More sensual when you're staying deep in your internal sensation? More of you is involved when you're not focused on where you're going? Mm-hmm. 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 When you were more internal? Anyone else? Anyone feel it was easier? It was just different? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did it change how you came up? Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Practitioners, really happy to hear what you have to say. Yeah? Mm-hmm.
It's smoother and you come from like there's this idea of internal external separation. It's like you move it through, carry through, hold the internal with you. But and it's actually more elegant.
Which one?
When you've got combination together. There's no sort of like jerky by internal by external.
Yeah.
You've got them both together. It's much more congruent. It's less.
I think it's a great thing for you all to play around with. Huh? One of the things that you'll notice is there's some lessons that take you deeply internally in ATM. Huh? Some people get lost there. Huh? So sometimes to come up in that place, you know, some people you want them to cultivate that space. You know, how do I come up in a way where I'm really internal and I've got the external world, but there's nowhere in particular that I need to go. No, I've got all these, maybe I'll go over here. Maybe I'll go over here. And then there's that other way, which is you're much more oriented, which doesn't mean you have to lose the internal state. And that's what we're looking for. How can we have both of them where it's like, now I'm going somewhere. And you need both. So some people, they need, don't know what I'm going to do. Other people need to be able to make a decision and orient and go somewhere. No. Does that have meaning, Janie?
We'll live in that.
Where will I go?
Right.
Hey.
Just get focused.
Yeah. Thank you, Jane. But that's a great one. And that's so neither is good or bad. You know, they're both incredibly useful. When do I need an absolute clear orientation about where I'm going? But I've still got the ability to, you know, change the goalposts as I'm going. Huh? Or when do I want to go more into that state of, well, whatever. Okay, have a walk around. See how that feels. Anything changed in your image? And we're going to finish by going back to the movement we did at the beginning, except you're going to change roles, which was feeling someone's ability to move their first rib in sitting. So could you go back with